Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Creating a slicer panel in Power BI can enhance your reports by allowing users to filter data dynamically. A slicer is a visual filter that can be applied to your data model, and in Power BI, you can create various types of slicers based on your data fields. In this tutorial, we will walk through the steps to build a slicer panel in Power BI using the features available in 2022 to 2023. Step 1. Set up your Power BI report. 1. Open Power BI Desktop. If you haven't installed it yet, download and install Power BI Desktop from the official website. 2. Load your data. Import your data into Power BI. This can be done by clicking on the Get Data button and selecting your data source, Excel, SQL Server, CSV, etc. 3. Prepare your data model. Ensure that your data model is well prepared for analysis. You may need to set relationships between tables if you're using multiple data sources. Step 2. Create a slicer. 1. Add a slicer visual. On the Home tab, click on the slicer icon in the Visualizations pane. This will add a blank slicer visual to your report canvas. 2. Select a field for the slicer. Drag a field from the Fields pane into the Values area of the slicer visual. For example, if you have a date field, you can drag it to create a date slicer. 3. Configure slicer settings. With the slicer selected, you can customize its settings in the Visualizations pane. Format the slicer, adjust the style, font size, border, background, and other visual properties. Slicer type. Change the slicer type to list, drop down, between, or relative date based on your requirement. Single or multi-select. Set whether users can select multiple items or just one. Step 3. Create a slicer panel. 1. Add multiple slicers. Repeat the process of adding slicers for different fields by dragging additional fields into new slicer visuals. For example, you might want to add a slicer for product category and another for region. 2. Arrange slicers into a panel. Resize and position the slicers on your report canvas to create a panel effect. You can align them vertically or horizontally based on your preference. 3. Use a visual background. To make your slicer panel visually appealing, you can add a background shape. Go to the Insert tab, click on Shapes, and select a rectangle. Draw it behind your slicers and adjust its size and color. 4. Group the slicers, optional. To group your slicers together, hold down the Control key and select all slicers. Then, right-click and choose Group, which will allow you to move them as a single unit. Step 4. Test your slicer panel. 1. Interact with slicers. Click on different options in your slicers to see how they filter the data in your report visuals. 2. Clear filters. You can add a clear filter button to reset all slicers back to their default state. To do this, insert a button from the Insert tab and assign it a Clear All Filters action. Example code for measures, optional. If you want to create measures that respond to slicer selections, you can use DAX, data analysis expressions. Here's an example of a measure that counts the number of sales based on a selected category from a slicer. You can also create a more dynamic measure. Conclusion. You have now created a slicer panel in Power BI. This functionality allows users to interactively filter data based on their selections, improving the overall usability of your reports. Experiment with different slicer types and configurations to meet your specific reporting needs. Additional tips. Use bookmarks. Consider using bookmarks to save specific filter states for quick navigation. Synchronize slicers. If you have multiple pages, you can synchronize slicers across pages to maintain a consistent filtering experience. Explore themes. Use Power BI's theme options to maintain a consistent color palette across your entire report. Feel free to adjust the design and functionality according to your report's needs.